Welcome back to Andersen Acres. Today we're talking about something every homesteader loves. A good hack. Just a handful of them. A couple of things you can do to make your life easier. These are little tricks, habits, tools, and sometimes weird ideas that have made farm life smoother, faster, or just less chaotic for us. Whether you're just getting started or you've been doing this a while, I'm sharing the real life hacks we actually use here on the farm and why they work for us. Maybe they'll work for you too. So let's get to it. The first thing I want to talk about is feed and water buckets. Do you have them falling over all the time? Are your animals constantly dislodging them to the point where you're like, well, I'm just going to get some brackets that are really expensive? Well, if you've got horses or goats or mischievous ducks who are up to something behind me, they love to knock things over. So if you are having a problem keeping your water buckets up and you want something cheap, look for carabiners. All right? Carabiners are really easy to find. You go to your hardware store, put a D-ring on the fence, clip that bucket to the fence with your carabiner. It's easy to remove. You can do it even in cold weather, and the ducks and the horse and the goat can't knock them over. Now, if you don't care, if you're fine with them falling over, then fine. Or if you are completely just willing to spend the money, you can buy some really nice brackets. But some of us, there's mosquitoes, but some of us don't want to spend a ton of money, okay? So if you don't want to spend a ton of money, a D-ring and a carabiner, and you can hang that bucket off a fence post. Not a fence board. So you wouldn't do it here on a board. Pick a post, okay? Pick a post. Nice solid post. Put that D-ring on there. Use the carabiner through the D-ring, through the handle of the bucket, especially if it's a flat back bucket, and you're gold. So it's really, really easy. Not only does it keep things upright, but it also slows down overeager eaters who like to shove the bucket around with their heads, okay? You don't want that. So it's easy to secure them using a carabiner. No problem. All right? And you can also do it to walls of your barn and stuff. Even inside, outside, doesn't matter. But you can absolutely do that. It's easy, it's quick, and it's really cheap. Just run to your hardware store, D-ring that you can screw into the fence, and a carabiner. Let's move on. Hack 2. This isn't really a hack. It is if you DIY it. But we have, right behind me here, I'm bad with the mirror mode, right there, a sink outside. This is just a camping sink that is hooked up to a garden hose. Okay? In the winter, you can winterize it or not bother. But if you have an outdoor washing station, this is a good thing for the humans because we can wash up before we drag all that mud into the mudroom or into the bathroom in the house. It is really helpful. Between the animal feed, the garden dirt, and the mystery goo, it's a nice way to have just a way to get goo off your hands. You never know what the goo is. It's usually duck poop. So wash your hands. It's just better, right? You can just not track it all over the house. So if you don't have a camping sink, so we have a camping sink, and it was inexpensive. We got it at a yard sale for like $10. And if you don't have one of those, you can DIY a hand washing station. You can use a water cool jug and a bungee cord to hold soap. We just have the soap on the side there. There is a little rack to hold a towel. And it's really just easy to wash our hands up and dry them off before we go inside. It's not that we don't wash up when we get inside. It's just that it's a good spot to get off the really gooky muck, like the really yucky stuff. And yes, we still have mosquitoes. So it's not glamorous, not a glamorous hack, not a glamorous tip, but it works. And it saves the bathroom from looking like a mud pit. All right? Now we're going to go find the wagon. All right, now a lot of us are parents. You'll notice this is not a kid's wagon. I'll explain why in a minute. But a lot of us are parents, and most of us parents have a kid's wagon or toboggans or sleds. We call them toboggans where I'm from. But they're just, winter sleds. You'll have, this is a garden wagon, garden cart, mostly because the wagon I used to have for the kids died a terrible death. It got demolished by goats. But a lot of us are parents, and that means we have things like wagons and sleds. Well, these things can be multi-purpose, especially once the kids get too big for them. You can simply use a basic kids wagon with whatever you're transporting around the farm. You need to move feed bags around, throw them in the kids' wagon. You need to move a hay bale, one of the smaller ones, obviously, not one of the big ones. But if you need to move a smaller hay bale, throw it on there, move on with your day. It makes things a lot easier. In summer, you can haul feed, water jugs, garden tools, even the occasional toddler. In winter, swap it out for a sled. Okay, you can use a toboggan or a sled, drag it over the snow. It makes it a lot easier moving your hay bales around. So make sure you are using what you've already got. You don't have to go and buy a fancy garden cart. We only did because ours got wrecked. Our kids' wagon got wrecked. At some point, you might have to upgrade to something like this, or you might find another kids' wagon at a local garage sale. That's fine, right? Hit up the yard sale, see if you can find an old sled or an old wagon if you don't have kids and don't have anything laying around, because these are easily repurposed. They're great for getting hay or buckets across the snow or the grass without dumping things or without breaking your back carrying things all over the yard, okay? And if you get one with removable sides, you can stack it tall with hay. All right, so if you get like these sides drop down, if you get something that the sides drop down, it's really useful. And I got another mosquito. Man, it's late and there's mosquitoes. So if I'm kicking my leg like this, it's because I got mosquitoes on the back of my leg. So we got to make sure we keep the mosquitoes off. For the next suggestion, I don't have to go anywhere because I have a trowel in here too. So, garden trowel. I've been asked a few times, why are my tools, my garden tools, why are these never rusty? I've been using the same trowel and people have commented that they've seen me with the same garden tools and the same metal tools that seem to be like always laying around on the grass or on the deck, and they're wondering why they're not rusty. Well, I've got a little tip that came from my grandma and grandpa. Stick your hand tools, like your garden trowel, your tools with metal ends, okay? Take these, you might have pruners, you might have shears. If you have manual sheep shears, you can do that as well. You put them in a bucket of sand mixed with mineral oil. Our bucket of sand and mineral oil is in the garden shed, okay? That bucket has a whole bunch of tools stuck in it, and they don't rust, and it cleans off the dirt. All the dirt ends up in the sand. Every few years when the sand is looking particularly gross, you can just replace the sand. Throw the sand out, put new sand in, add more mineral oil, let the mineral oil seep into that sand, and it acts as a really good way to keep your tools from getting rusty, and it'll clean the dirt off when I go shove it in the bucket. I probably won't even do that today. You don't even have to shove it in the bucket every day. Okay, I usually try to make sure I do it on Friday nights because I'm not usually gardening on Saturday or Sunday. So I try to make sure all the tools are in there for Friday. And it really makes a great, great alternative. Okay, so without further ado, let's go to the baby barn. All right, next tip. Don't spend a ton of money on your chick brooders. Okay, I've done it. I have bought the $300 specialty chick brooder. I have built one out of wood. I have grabbed a tote and mutilated the tote so that it had ventilation at the top and put chicks in there. This works better than all of them. A $20 small animal playpen. It is fantastic. Okay, first of all, it doesn't have tight corners, which is good because if you raise quail, quail have a tendency to pile in tight corners and then they smother each other to death. Not fantastic. So you don't want to do that. So because you don't want to do that, oh geez, I just scared him. I was going to try and film him closer, but I scared him. But because you don't want your quail to do that, you're going to want something that doesn't have tight corners. This is rounder, and the corners are a little bit elevated anyway, so chicks can't pile on top of each other. It's got plenty of ventilation from the top to the sides, being half mesh, half solid. It has a waterproof bottom, so whatever bedding you have doesn't suck and doesn't get all over the place and doesn't smell because it's gotten all over your floor and all the water's leaked out. And every time your baby ducks spill the water, it doesn't go all over the place. These things are cheap. You can get them for under $30 on Amazon. You can probably get them at your local pet store or whoever carries pet supplies. This is just a small animal playpen, and it's fantastic. No, they can't be outside on the grass. We have them in a shed so that they're protected from the rain because they're not waterproof, but they are cheap, they are easy to use, they're easy to clean because you just take them outside, shake out all the bedding, and rinse them off with the hose. And when they're wrecked, which happens to all brooders eventually, and we've been using these for 3 years now, but when they're wrecked, you just buy another one for $30. We've got two. We've got this one as well. So, definitely I recommend these. There are easier ways to do some of the things that you have been doing, and this is one of them. I definitely recommend getting something like this for your chick brooders. Let's move on. All right, another good one. Looking at the rabbits behind me, if you have rabbit pens or chicken coops or anything like that, don't just get rid of that. That can be used as one fertilizer. When you scrape out your pen, all their poop and all their bedding makes fantastic fertilizer. But you can also use it as mulch when it breaks down a little bit. Now rabbits, they don't have to break down, they're already cold. But your chicken poop, your goat, your horse, it has to break down. And once it's broken down a little bit and it's no longer hot, then it makes really good mulch for around your fruit trees and your squash plants, even among your garden rows. It helps suppress weeds, but encourages the healthy development of your own plants, as long as you don't smother your plants with it. So use it. Don't just chuck it in the bush. And if you can't use it yourself because you don't garden and you don't have any use for the mulch around fruit trees and stuff like that, sell it. There is somebody willing to take it. And you can use old feed bags to put that compost in. Okay, put the compost in an old feed bag. If it's like, this is a rabbit bag. I turn this around, you'll see it actually has a rabbit on it. This is a rabbit feed bag. So I would put my rabbit manure in here and sell it if I didn't need to. You could sell it for $5 a bag. Fill this bag up with rabbit manure, sell it to gardeners. People will pay $5 or $10 a bag for this because that's cheap compared to what you get it at the garden store for. So if you can't use your own bedding, your own chicken poop, your own goat poop, your own rabbit poop for fertilizer because you don't need it because you don't like gardening, try selling it to local gardeners. List it on your local classifieds. Trust me, people will buy it. And then it doesn't go to waste. You use up those old feed bags and somebody gets a really nice boom in their garden that year. And sticking with feed bags, you know, these are plastic and kind of woven and kind of annoying, and everyone's like, what do I do with them? Some people make bags out of them, but this one's not real attractive. Well, in addition to filling them with manure and then selling that manure, you can do something else. Don't toss them. You can either leave them in one piece like this, or you can split them open so they're a single layer. And you can use them as a weed barrier on your garden paths. Place them down, pin them with rocks or landscape ties or whatever, and cover them with straw, wood chips, mulch, whatever you want, gravel for your path, and it'll stop weeds from coming up. They last longer than cardboard, and it gives one of these bags a little more life before it hits the trash, because that's what most of these bags are destined for, the trash bin. So use these for your garden paths in between your vegetables or down through your forest, which is what we're doing. It'll just retard the growth of weeds. And that's really helpful when you're out in a place like ours where you have plenty of weeds to the point where we just decided we like weeds now. Okay? So speaking of the forest that you see whenever I film, if you have a forest like ours, you have a lot of brush and you need it cleared. Well, if you have a patch of overgrown brambles or a bunch of weeds, get a few goats, get some portable goat fencing, set it up, and they will eat through that brush, especially if you have 3 or more, because they'll kind of compete for it. Sheep are grazers. They're better at keeping your grass short. But goats, they are browsers. Okay? They will go in there and eat all of the underbrush, and it'll help keep your area clean and less prone to forest fires, and it'll look nicer because they'll eat some of that dense undergrowth. And you can just use like T-posts for temporary fencing. or cattle panels and rotate the goats through the areas that you want cleared. Okay, it works really well. They make quick work of it when you have more than one goat. If you only have one goat, it's going to take them forever because they're not really motivated because there's no one to compete with. But if you have a group of 3 or more, they are going to make quick work of all the brush you have. And they think it's enrichment. We think it's free landscaping. It works really, really well. All right. Another one I want to talk about, I'm just not going to move, but the other one I want to talk about is have whiteboards or chalkboards or those pads of paper that you can rip the paper off, staple to the wall. Have something somewhere where you can write things down. In your feed room, in your barn, in your garden shed, in your gazebo, in your baby barn. Have these things literally everywhere. That's how we track which animal is on which medication. If someone's on medications, how often they get it, who's administering it, because we don't let more than one person administer medication. But we also keep track of chores that need doing, or when we put eggs in the incubator so we know when to candle or when to lock down, when we bred our rabbits. So that's the one in here. There's a whiteboard. I don't think you can see it on camera, but it's just around the corner. It's inside this shed. That has the dates we bred our rabbits, so we know who goes into lockdown, which is what we call it when we separate them for kindling. But we have a way to keep track of that right here. And we have in the barn, we have another whiteboard that tells us what supplemented feed anyone is getting at any given time, because if your goat needs a little extra enrichment or extra minerals or something, it's good to write it down. And then we always keep track of who is doing what. So all of that can be kept track of using chalkboards or whiteboards or something. Don't just have, a pad of paper in your house by the phone. You want to have stuff located where you're going to be. And don't forget the markers or the chalk. It is really easy to install the whiteboards and to not put any markers. We did that. So whiteboards with markers, okay? It allows us to keep track of things we might forget about. And you can wipe it off and change it daily or weekly or monthly or whatever you have to do. And you can add things at will, and you can take things off at will. And it's really, really easy. It's also a great way to keep track of who is getting dewormed and when the vet is coming and all of that good stuff. Okay? It is really, really useful. And we are going to move for the next segment. And I have to wait till it's just a little bit darker. Well, my final tip / hack / suggestion is these guys along the path. Solar lights. And I'm not just talking along your walkways. We're over here because I don't want to be over there because there's mosquitoes like a lot. And the sun has gone out down more and it's not a lot of fun. We've also got solar lights along the pathway behind the camera. We have solar powered motion lights by the barn, and we have them on the outside of the property. Solar lights will save your butt. Motion activated is really great for areas where you don't want light all of the time, only when you're moving around in that area. Something like this is great for pathways. They really do illuminate. You can see some of the light they cast. They throw better light than it looks right now. It's just not that dark yet. We have solar lights in the trees, just illuminating the paths a little bit, just so you can see, so a tree doesn't get in your eye. Why does that all matter? The number of times you're going to be scrambling around after the sun has gone down, especially in the winter, and your arms are going to be full of either stuff or animals, and you don't have an extra hand for a flashlight. Having areas that you are frequenting lit up with solar lights that automatically come on, where you don't have to remember to hit a switch, it really can just make your entire life a whole lot simpler. It means that if I'm going out to the goat pen, there's a path. If I need to go to the gazebo, there's a path. It's got lights on it. If there's predators on the other side of the trees, the solar lights that are motion activated are facing that way. So they'll light up and provide the first line of defense before the dogs get involved for coyotes and foxes and other predators. All of this matters, okay? And it helps you a lot. Solar lights are inexpensive. You don't have to wire them, which is the biggest problem with adding lighting is having to figure out how to wire everything, but you don't have to wire solar lights. You stick them in the ground, or you screw them into the side of a building or a tree or whatever setup you've got, weave them through the bushes, whatever, it doesn't matter. But they don't require much in the way of setup, and they certainly do not require you to run a bunch of wiring. They just allow you to see, right? So that you're able to find out where you are. You don't constantly trip. And if you're running around in the middle of the night because your goat went into labor and you got your baby goats in your arms, you're at least not in total darkness. So I recommend solar lights inside the barn, solar lights outside the barn, on all your paths and through your trees, just to deter predators. Also, the mosquitoes are getting really bad. So that is about it for us here tonight at Andersen Acres. Drop a comment below and let me know what your favorite tips or hacks that are easy, cheap, and efficient are. I'd love to hear from you. And so would everyone else. We'll see you tomorrow.